name is Bailey Phillips. I'm currently attending Finger Lakes Community College, which is in Canandaigua, New York. It's about an hour and a half from here. And I'm expected to get my associate's degree in 2024 and then hopefully transfer to get my bachelor's in 2026. I am part of the Summer Engineering Research for Community College Students program, and my mentor is Amlan. He's a material scientist, a really nice guy, really smart, and he's taught me a lot. Okay, so the research I'm engaged in, we are conducting mechanical tests on samples using a compact load frame. So we're applying tensions and compressions to these samples. And the goal of our experiments are to figure out a way to measure the compliance of the load frame, or in more simple terms, how the load frame deforms when you apply the load to the sample itself, so they can get a more accurate measurement of the sample that you're testing. So basically all we're trying to do is measure the overall deformation that we're applying to a sample and subtracting the deformation from the sample itself from the overall deformation, so that way we get the compliance of the load frame. So far we've been doing just a lot of theoretical work, but lately we've been finally in the lab getting our tests done, and we've actually been collaborating with another student from the Sunrise program using his laser, which is really cool, to track two wires that we've attached to our sample to measure the deformation of the sample that way. So that's what we've been doing so far. Hopefully we'll get further this week. We ran into a couple errors yesterday. We were just doing some tests, but hopefully we'll get some good results very soon. Okay, so by the end of the project, we're hoping to have a very well-tested means of measuring load frame compliance. It's important to note this is very important for compact load frames. Chess has a lot of very large load frames that take into account these measurements and errors, but we're hoping to find a means of measuring the compliance with a compact load frame, so that if you're just doing a small test with a small sample, nothing too serious, you have a way to take into account the compliance, so you get a more accurate measurement. So that way, you know what your materials is made of, what it's capable of, how it reacts to stresses, strains, all that stuff in a more accurate way. So you're not standing in a building that hasn't been made of materials that aren't accurately tested. That'd be really, really frightening, honestly. And being able to test the compliance or deformation of a load frame and be able to take that out of our measurements when we're testing actual samples that we really care about that data, it's going to be very important to have all this good data and make sure we don't have as much error as possible, so that when it comes time to use these materials that we're testing in things in everyday life, such as making buildings or chairs or whatever it is, this has a lot of applications in mechanical engineering, civil engineering, and materials science. It's going to be good to have these good measurements, so that way we know how our materials are going to react to certain stresses, strains, loads, earthquakes, tornadoes, tsunamis, whatever it may be, stuff like that. So I go to community college, so I've stayed at home for the past year while I've seen all my friends go off to college and get the typical college experience. So it's been really nice to have a way to stay on campus and stay on my own. That's been a great part. Meeting a lot of new people from all around the country is really awesome. Get a lot of open-minded people, and a lot of people with similar interests who are in similar spots. It's just really cool. Even though this is only an hour and a half away from home, I've lived in Western New York my whole life, but it's really cool to just get a new experience and go to somewhere seen as very highly prestigious is just really cool. And on top of that, it's just such a great environment. The campus is beautiful. I love just walking around. I'll leave the lab and just walk down a trail just because it's right there. Why not go look at some good views, or really enjoy all the hiking around. I try to go on runs a lot, so it's just been a really good place to get some good runs in, a lot of elevation change. It's just, I think just the beauty of the whole place has been probably my favorite part. So probably the most challenging part of the research is, I'm sure everyone can attest to this, but whatever you end up researching, because you didn't necessarily get to pick it, it's probably going to be a lot of new material. So there's a lot of your own research that has to go into this, getting the prerequisites of making sure you understand what sort of equations you're working with, what topics you're working with. The vocabulary you're working with is also very important, so that you're following along when your mentor or whoever you're working with is talking to you about your project. So yeah, just the new everything has been pretty difficult, especially I only have 1 year of school under my belt, so it's very, I have a very surface level knowledge of all these things, so acquiring all this deeper in-depth knowledge and just getting to know the research process, especially in its difficult times, have been very tough. We've ran into a lot of errors doing our tests, so making sure we account for those, do some debugging and whatever we're working with, and making sure we're working towards getting accurate data. That's probably been the toughest part so far. So yeah, one of my big decisions or reasons for going to community college was because I wasn't really all that sure of what I wanted to do, like a lot of people. So I figured it was a good first step because I did have a strong background in math and science. So I'm doing engineering science right now, and I plan on continuing to do engineering, probably mechanical engineering. So going on to graduate school has always been a thought as well, looming in the back of my mind, and entering that research area has always just been a thought that I've had, but so has becoming a professor. So doing this program has really made me think, okay, so if I do become a professor, I could also do my own research on the side in areas I'm really interested in. I think that'd be really cool, or conducting labs, doing little experiments, or eventually maybe someday being a PhD advisor or postdoc advisor, whatever it may be. I think it'd be really cool just to give back and help other people that are doing research and things they're interested in, hopefully. But yeah, this has been very eye-opening to see what the actual process is like, because for a long time I've been like, okay, I don't really know what scientists actually do. And on top of the coffee hours and communication seminars and all this other stuff, it's been very insightful to see what it's like on a day-to-day basis to be conducting research. So yeah, I at least have a baseline understanding of what it's like now, so hopefully that'll help me in the future decide if I want to continue doing research or go into the, academia as a professor or whatever it may be. So, yeah.